Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Tattoobart, and welcome to the channel. We have been creating this Tattooing 101 series, and I really love these kind of videos. And it looks like you guys and girls are actually liking these videos too. So let's create another one. In today's video, we are going to talk about texture and texture in your tattoo, how to apply it, what sort of techniques you could use, uh, and whatnot. So before we move on, let's actually talk about what texture actually is. Texture are little lines or little shades in certain areas, or maybe highlights in certain areas that give the illusion that something is something else. So it's not just a basic shape. So it's not just one smooth shade. There is little lines and little things that give dimension to your piece. For example, if you are doing a piece of wood, you can give that a woody look by using a different color tone or a different shading tone than something else, but creating, for example, the pattern that's in wood would give the extra dimension, and those little lines within the wood are texture in this case. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to apply it, how to use it, and where to use it. And we're going to show a couple of different things where you can use texture on. So let's quickly dive down and see what we need for this video. So for this video, we're going to need a couple of things. Of course, we're going to need some practice skin and a tattoo machine of your choice. We are going to use some tattoo needles. I always like to use a small liner and a smaller magnum, a round magnum, especially because it is a little bit easier to maneuver and a little bit softer on the shading as well. Now I am going to use just a ballpoint marker, and of course we're going to need some gloves, some Vaseline, ink cups, and ink. So let's quickly set everything up and we're going to go to the next step. Okay, so I ran a real quick outline on this little piece right here. Now there's a couple of things we need to understand. For example, the steel is most likely going to be a higher contrast, and probably in overall it's going to be a little bit lighter than this little wood section right here. So I have 3 ink cups set up like usual, a full black, a half black, and a 2 or 3 drops shading. So that's going to be my lightest tone that I'm most likely going to use in the anchor, and the medium tones are probably going to be in the wood tone. Now, if we're going to add some texture, we don't want to use a lighter tone than the actual shading is going to be, because in that case you won't really be able to see it. So we could use a dark tone. Now it is recommended if you do this to run your machine a little bit lower, so I'm going to move my machine to about 6 volts. I was lining on 7 volts with this, and we're going to go full black, and we are going to create that little textured sort of wood pattern in here. But you can start from the middle and then work your way around. I'm just going to freeboat it a little bit. With our medium tone, we are going to create a bit of depth in this piece. So I'm not gonna do anything fancy. I'm just gonna shade upwards, and I'm gonna leave a little line open on the bottom. And on the top as well. And there you have it. It already looks a lot more like wood, with just a little bit of texture in it. Now I'm gonna keep my Magnum in and we're gonna do the bottom section. Now I do want to use a really high contrast on that. There's really solid black and really light shades. We're gonna try and create the same in this little small piece here. So it is important to keep one dark side and one light side. I will keep the left side a bit darker than the rest. So if this is gonna be the middle, I kind of want to create a really dark pattern in the middle. Leaving just a little bits open on the sides. And then once we go around the corner, I'm gonna whip that out just a little bit. I mean, it doesn't really have to be this detailed, but just a little bit of fun to have with it. And then we're gonna just finish it off with a light tone. Create a little bit of extra shade in it. Now, if you want to learn a little bit more about shading techniques, I have a shading technique video in the same series, in the Tattooing 101. Of course, I will link the playlist in the description down below so you can have a look at it. And here you have some basic shading. Now let's say, to go a little bit more crazy, you want to have the other side look like it's almost like cracked and maybe almost a stone sort of texture. Now what we can do then is grab our liner. I'm gonna go in with the medium tone, and you want to kind of create like a peppery sort of shade, so it really gets that grainy sort of look. It might be a bit hard to do that in a small section like this, but we're gonna at least give it a try. So I really want to make sure we get that stippling pattern in there without making it too smooth. So I think the medium tone is gonna be perfect for that. Let's start here. As you can see, we are getting a nice dotted pattern. Now make sure you don't go too soft, because otherwise you will end up creating a nice soft shade, which is not going to be what you want to get. from this piece because we want to get that peppery sort of shade in there. So now it is a bit more grainy. You could, if you wanted to, with the same tone, you could add some cracks in it or whatever you like to do. You know, you can really have a lot of fun with it and creating all kinds of crazy textures. There is one thing you have to keep in mind is don't go up too close and add way too much texture because you still have to be able to see what it is from across the room. So don't go overboard with the textures, but make sure you have a little bit of fun with it. And then once you've done all that, you can go back in with your Magnum and kind of layer your shading over the top of the grainy pattern that you just made to at least give it a little bit of depth. So we've done a couple of things. We've done some layering. So we've done lines with a liner and then shade over top. We have done some shading with our liner and then kind of layer with a Magnum over top. So it is really about creating layers. Quick recap, what we actually did, we created a couple of different textures in a really small design just to kind of get the hang of it. We mainly used a technique that's called layering. We layered line work with shading to create a certain kind of texture. We also use different shading techniques to create certain textures in our design. Now, this is a very small and very basic design. And I choose this design because it is easy to create a lot of different textures in a small design. And especially if you are a beginner, it is nice to be able to work on a small design that's not too difficult and not so bad if you ruin it, if that kind of makes sense. If you are working on practice skin and you have this whole lion portrait laid out and you make one single mistake, it's very easy to give up on that piece because it's already starting to look bad. It's a difficult piece. I understand it. So that's why I kept it kind of simple to be able to do maybe 5 or 6 different versions of that same small design with different textures to kind of get the hang of how textures actually work and how they look. Now, of course, if you want to see a little bit more of an interesting design or a little bit more detailed or specific things, make sure to write them in the comments section down below, as well as other subjects that you would like me to touch on my channel. Because for me, it's kind of a guessing game on what you want to see, and I see a lot of people that actually really like this tattooing one-on-one series. So I want to make a whole lot more videos in this subject matter. So if you have any ideas for me what I should do for the next video, make sure to write them in the comments down below. So if you like this video, make sure you smash that thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And other than that, I don't have a whole lot more to say, so I wish you all a wonderful day and hopefully see you in the next video.